Assalamu alaikum, family. I guess
Okay,
I
one
was.
second. Okay,
Okay,
one
good.
second. What it is? Just wait notification. Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us today, a legend in her own right, someone who I've gotten to know via social media and on the phone, although she watched me and my siblings grow up and knew my parents and know my parents. None other than Sister Captain Dawn Muhammad of Jersey, who I found out, speaking to her, that she was the first regional captain of the East Coast and during the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam. I would never be able to tell that, that she was the first. Praise be to Allah. First of all, assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Now, Sister Dawn, we want to stay right there. What was it like, being chosen to be the first regional MGT captain of the East Coast? What was that like?
Overwhelming. When we came into the nation, I was 19 and I had no knowledge of there were captains, lieutenants, and all of that. I just wanted to be a Muslim helping out the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I first became the captain of Mosque number 25 in Newark with Brother Kadir. And we were, that's when we were just a study group. And so as we evolved a little bit and the East Coast started getting bigger, Brother Kareem said that he was going to make me his East Coast regional captain. So at that time, we traveled a lot. So that meant going back and forth, going to the different cities on the East Coast to train the sisters up. Chester, Pennsylvania meant going to the mosque meeting on Sunday during the day, and then Sunday night getting in a car, riding down to Chester, Pennsylvania to train the MGT. Some Saturdays getting on a train and going down to Washington, D.C., then going to Philadelphia, then going to Fredericksburg, Pennsylvania. So we did a lot of, it was on the job training because there were no manuals, there were no books that said this is what the MGT is going to do. It was just following the Messengers program, how to eat to live, message to the Black man, sitting down with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, him saying, this is what I want the sisters to learn, and just building a unification amongst the believers. So it was work, it was enjoyable, it was fun, it was a learning process. And so, and it was a foundation. So we traveled Boston all the way down to, like I said, Washington, D.C., any given time. So, and it built a camaraderie amongst the believers as well.
All right, praise be to Allah. And on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, we thank Allah for your sacrifices and the sacrifice of your family as well to help establish Islam here in North America. What advice would you give to the young people in general, but specifically the young sisters, in the foundation that has helped you be here for consistency? Like, what advice would you give?
I have to say that when I was teaching the MGT class, the basis and the foundation is the three. What did you come to the nation for? Who did you come to the nation for? And I used to say to the sisters in class all the time, Master Fard Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's who you wrap yourself around, and that's who you wrap around yourself. Because personalities, captains, ministers, lieutenants are going to come and go. And don't get yourself involved in those personalities, get yourself involved in the mindset of those three. And so if you have your obstacles that come up, those three would be the focal point of what decisions that you make, and not the minister didn't treat me right, or the sister captain spoke to me wrong, or brother captain, he's too harsh. No, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to get myself together as a Muslim, and I'm here to help. Our focus at that point was to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so that's what I would tell the young people now. Figure out your focus and your why. Why are you here? What do you want to do while you're here? When you wake up, what can I do for my nation? When you go to bed, what have I done for my nation? And we were a young group of people. I was 19 at the time. So I was just telling Joshua, I admire the youth of today because you all are our future. And so, don't be dismayed by anything that may be said to you or about you. Just go forth and do what you have to do with the strength that you have it. Allah will guide you. We didn't have anybody, like I said, to tell us, with the books and what to study and all that. We went on, this is the teachings, and we're going to do this and help the minister. So there was nothing that stopped us. So don't let anything stop you, period. Nothing and nobody. Just keep going forward and doing what you have to do.
Oh, praise is due to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And all right, and people are showing you love all across the country. I said, Deshawn, I believe she's in Ghana. She says, Salam, Brother Josh, thank you for your consistency. Thank you, ma'am. Sister Josette says, wow, Assalamu alaikum. Yes, ma'am. True focus, divine guidance, relationship with Allah. Excellent. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. And I also want to stay right there with you being 19. You being 19, nobody being over 28, and you all being, that's unheard of in 2023. Like, to see that being upset. How did your family and friends feel about you, running, serving as the MGT captain, 19 years old? What did they say to you?
Opposition. When the nation rose back then, there was much opposition, and the most opposition that I got was from my family. My father, may Allah be pleased with him, most particular. I was raised as a Catholic. You're not going to go and be no Muslim, and then your friends look at, because back then too, we covered up right away. There was no thought to, well, I might wear my longs, I might not, I might cover my hair, I might not. We boldly wore the long skirts. We weren't fashion wasn't quite where it is today with the young sisters. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Praise be to Allah. We're going to be Muslims. And so we covered up. And so we received a lot of ridicule from our families. As a matter of fact, we didn't spend a lot of time with our families. I missed a lot of weddings, a lot of funerals, a lot of family get-togethers, because my focus was the believing family, my brothers and sisters in the mosque, the nation, and helping the minister. So 24/7, 365, I was in the mosque, period. Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, there just was no letting up, and there was no, I'll think about going, or I might not go. It was, this is what I'm here for. This was the focus. And so with us being a young mosque, Brother Kadir wasn't any more than about 24, 25. And all the brothers and sisters underneath him weren't older than 28 years old. And so we were young people on a mission to get the teachings back up and going, and received a lot of opposition from the streets, from the Balalian community at the time. They didn't want to hear the minister's name. We would put posters up, they would snatch them down. And the brothers went back out and put the posters back up. The minister was coming to town, and there would be, well, we don't want him in Newark. So we, as young people, we didn't have a fear factor. It was like Farrakhan or nothing. The nation of this. So it was at that point that we were rebuilding, and so we were in the spirit that the nation wasn't here, and we had to bring it back, and that the minister was standing up, and that we're going to stand and help the minister. So our fight and our drive was a little different than now, because we were the beginning. We were the start of the evolution or the revolution. And so, so we had a wonderful, wonderful camaraderie and a fighting spirit.
Oh, praise is due to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for that spirit. And I want to come back to Jersey. People are showing love. All from Inglewood, California. At 53, I'm experiencing that treatment now. She can only imagine what she had to endure. Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. Please let us know what city you all are watching from on YouTube as well. With the Newark, because I've seen so many documentaries about the hostility and vitriol towards the fighting of the Muslim community at whole, but specifically the Nation of Islam, with the rebuilding because of Malcolm X and things of that nature. And you all were saying Minister Farrakhan's coming. What gave you that conviction to stand in the city of Newark?
And see, me, I didn't live in Newark. I came from the suburbs outside of Newark. So
okay.
For me to even get involved, it was like, what does she think she's doing? You were around fighters. Let's be very, very clear. You didn't have anybody weak-kneed and milk toasted. And if you came in like that, we were going to make you a stronger individual. And so I wasn't that person when I first came in. I was very, very quiet, timid, and meek. But because of the spirit and the energy around me, it forced me to bring that out in myself,
Mm.
by Allah's grace and permission. And so, and then I fed off of the vibrations of the sisters that were around me. So we fed off of each other. And it was constantly, well, what can we do? Um, in Newark, particularly, they really wanted to kill the minister. And Brother Kadir was a very, very powerful driving force. You know, he stood before us and he gave us that courage. Some people say that he was very, very raw and they couldn't take him, but we knew that. But at that time, that's what we needed. You know, he would come and say, "No, sisters, y'all doing this wrong. Y'all can't do this, that, the other." And we would say, "Okay, Brother Kadir, we got this." And he'd say, "Sister Dawn, get in there and get them sisters to do what they're supposed to do. You know, if
Mm.
they talk about killing the minister, y'all got to be ready to fight and die." You know, so we talked like that to each other,
Mm.
to
Mm.
the point where it was embedded in our brains that, you know, we're going to die for the minister. And at some points in Newark, when he came, they said they were going to kill him, but our spirit was over our dead bodies. You know, sisters, you know, babies, all that. We had the children citing Farrakhan, Farrakhan, you know, as infants and stuff. So it was brutal, but it was a loving environment as well. And because we spent so much time together, you know, doing things, Brother Kareem was very key in that. Also, he made sure that the East Coast got together. Everybody in the East Coast was either in New York on the first Sunday, you were either in Washington, D.C. on the first Sunday. But all the believers were coming together, so you knew who your team was. If you were like, I knew your father, I knew your mother, I knew your uncle, Jamil, because we were always together building and fighting and supporting the minister.
Oh, praise due to yes, ma'am. And do you think, in retrospect, and to what we're seeing in 2023, is trying to keep the spirit alive, and especially with Most High Farrakhan about to, you know, depart, that it would take an external opposition for us to like have that spirit of it's a fight like how you all had it in the early days, or will it just come naturally? What do you think will take us to have that 18-year-old, 19-year-old captains, 28-year-old people just saying, let's go? What do you think will take that spirit?
Um, I think you have to go within yourself.
Mm.
And I think that spirit has to be brought back with what your intention is. You
Mm.
know, what is your why? You know, why am I here? What do I want to do and how am I going to do it? And not to let anybody kill your spirit, take your heart away from you. You know,
Mm.
you have to be steadfast in what you believe in and how far, you know, how far it is that you're going to go. I had the attitude that if it didn't come from the minister, I don't want to hear it. And I also got the reputation of, you know, don't do nothing around Sister Dawn because she's going to tell it. And it got to the point where, you know, she's the snitch. Yeah, I'm a snitch. I'm going to tell on you because that's not right. That's not what the minister would say. You know, if you don't like the way I'm saying that, to call the minister up, ask him, do he want us to do that? Because, you know, we have to, it has to be done. You know, you have to really ride like the minister's teaching us now, and but he's been teaching us on the truth. You know, what is your truth? You know, what are you going to put up with? You know, hypocrisy is all in the nation now. The hypocrites are there. So how do you break that down? You know, and I'm talking to sisters right now too. We had to have the attitude that, you know, are you Allah's woman, Master Farad Muhammad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's daughter, the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's follower, or are you following the ignorance and the mess that's going on around you? So you
Mm.
really have to be convicted with what's going on in your heart and just don't tolerate anything. Become that believer that the hypocrite will say, you can't do that around Brother Joshua. Well, you can't talk that talk around Sister Sophia because she's not going to have it. And don't be afraid. You know, stand like the minister standing on his truth, stand on your truth. Stand on the truth of the teachings. Stand on the truth of what's going to help our beloved minister, even when he's gone. You know, that's when our trial is going to come. You know, but how strong is your foundation? You know, what are you going to fight against? Your husband, your wife, your children. You know, you don't have to be arrogant about it. You be very humble and submissive. There's a time and a place for everything, but you do have to be true to yourself and true to Allah.
Excellent teacher. Yes, ma'am. All praise due to Allah. And once again, man, people are showing you love all across the country. That part, not anybody. I'm 2 years, 1 month in. Just the sound of her voice is encouraging and giving me strength to journey on. All praise due to Allah for such an MGT soldier. My dear sister Dawn, from Ramadan last number 25. May Allah continue the blessings. Brother Nelson Ramos from Connecticut, since that's like Islam. People just showing you love all across the country.
All
Thank
praise
you all.
to Allah. Yeah. And you know what, brother Joshua, and that's really what it's about. It's about loving each other. Like the minister says it, you know, it's easy to say it, but you really have to love this work enough that sometimes, like I heard the minister say to me personally, that he cries at night just thinking about what's coming to us. And so if he's crying in pain and can't sleep because of what he's thinking is coming to us, not necessarily what's outside of us, and let's be very, very clear in what's being said to us now and what we're going through in studies and what have you. Yes, he's talking about what's going on outside of the nation, but he's talking also about what's going on inside. You know, I hear people say all the time, you know, Allah knows my heart. And we say that very, very nonchalantly, like, oh, Allah knows my heart. Yeah, yeah, sis, you're right, he does. You don't know it, but Allah does. So you use that sometimes as an excuse, you know, well, I'm not coming out to the mosque, but Allah knows my heart. You know, think about what you're saying, because he does know your heart and he's showing your heart to you. So with that being said, you know, maybe you need to get a little bit more into what your heart is so that you can get into the heart of the matter and start really working out the way you're supposed to do. You know, and I say that to myself too, because I came in strong and then I fell a little bit to the wayside, you know, and I just had to regroup and get myself back together, you know, and realize why I came in. I came in because I adored the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And there wasn't nothing or anybody that was going to stop me from doing that and helping him. And so that's what we have to do. We really got to help him. You know, to the sisters, I want to say this, you know, your MGT class is very, very important. And your MGT class is a training ground for what you have to do outside of the class. And we have to very, very strongly go after our children, our girls. If you're able to get into the school system, you're able to get in, you know, do little things on the side and have little girls come and sit down and talk. You know, they got a lot of things going on in their minds, children trying to commit suicide, what have you. And our class is empowering us to talk to them and to help them. They're already Muslims, but you just have to bring the light to them. Brothers too, these young boys are dying in the street. You know, 13 and 14-year-old boys, you know, trying not to be in gangs. What is our duty and obligation? You know, not to just sit in FOI class or MGT class, but go pick up one, mentor one. You know, let me take this little brother, go to somebody who you know is a single mom and take her son out to lunch so they can have a big brother to talk to or a big sister to talk to. You know, sisters getting pregnant, not MGT per se getting pregnant, but, you know, young sisters getting pregnant, they don't know what to do. And we do know. So we can't always get them into the class because the class sometimes is outside of that building. And that's where we got to go to bring them in. So I just really need to say that.
Oh, absolutely. Excellent. Yes, ma'am. And people are bearing witness as am I. I want to also talk to you about your Ramadan, right? That just passed. How important is Ramadan in general, of course, to the public who are watching? But how did it personally impact you this year? How was your Ramadan?
Ramadan was very challenging this year, and I say to everybody, Ramadan is personal. It's not, you know, just like your charity. It's not something that you want to brag about, because when you brag about it, I didn't make all my 5 prayers. You know, I didn't do everything that I was supposed to do. I tried. And I committed myself. It was some things went on. You know, I did fast and did do my prayers. And then I had somebody say to me, I don't want to go to the festivities because I didn't do everything I was supposed to do. And I said, well, do you think everybody that's there did everything that they were supposed to do? That they're going to wear a sign on their back saying I did it all or I made a mistake here and there? This Ramadan was important to me, more. Not that all the rest of them weren't, but this one was very, very important to me to complete. it was satisfying. I could have done more and I should have done more. But I talked to Allah and I asked, and as we always all should, asked him to make me stronger and to forgive me of my faults. Um, so Ramadan was good. It was good. It was good for what it did for me, what it was supposed to do. And I just pray Allah, He gets me to the next Ramadan to make it better than this one and the years past. So,
All praise due to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And thank you, everybody who continues to show love all across the country. She's tough love is real love, as love is long. They're beautiful. They're going to ASA Grand Rising. People just showing you love. Her representation. May Allah create more like her. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you about let's go to Madison Square Garden. Once I miss Louis Farrakhan speaking. God. Yes, ma'am. And I hear often from members of the E team and or F team and lieutenants, captain, the majority of military of the FOI. But you being an MGT, 1985, what is that time period like? And what was your experience like from a primary source, from someone who bore witness from being there?
That was the most amazing event that took place. First of all, the Jews were, we're talking about the Jews now. The Jews were very, very vocal in the fact that they wanted to kill the minister. They outright came out and said it. You all don't see them saying we're going to kill Farrakhan. You do hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking about the death plots. But back then, they were saying, we're going to kill him. We want Farrakhan. How do you want him? Want him dead? That kind of thing. And we knew going into New York, that particular event, that it was going to be a hostile environment. So the East Coast, everybody, West Coast came as well too. That was also a time when it was decided that that would be our Savior's Day. That was like the pivot of Savior's Day starting. And so Savior's Day was supposed to take place from that point, because we were going to be honoring Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so Savior's Day was going to take place every year in October on the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday. And then February, we would be celebrating, not Savior's Day like we're doing now, but we were going to be celebrating a different way, Savior's Day in February. So then what happened after, what happened after that, the Million Man March came in. I'm going around a little bit. I also want to let the sisters know that was one of the first times that the sisters came and stood posts around the minister. So a lot of science went into even that. But Madison Square Garden was so powerful because the people, and we didn't charge back then either. That's another thing. Back in those days, the believers would pay for the venues for the minister to come to. Of course, Chicago would send monies as well too, but we'd never sold tickets for people to come in. People were coming to see the minister for free. And so they would line up out the doors, and Madison Square Garden, people were wrapped around. And when they could not get in, there were still like thousands of people standing outside trying to get in. And I remember saying to Brother Khalid, I said, Brother Khalid, listen, the people are trying to get in the doors and we don't have any more. He says, Sister Dawn, they're going to break the doors down. And we're just going to have to let them in because they want to hear the minister. When you went into the garden, you could not see the aisles or the stairwells because people were sitting in the stairwells. They were sitting in the aisles. So it was jam-packed. They also started a fire in the garden. And this is how on point the security and stuff was. Brothers and sisters, we all knew that, we had to check every single person, and every single person was checked, and they were checked thoroughly to make sure that no guns came up in there, because we knew that they were going to start this. They were going to try to start this stuff. So the fire was started. The brothers wound up putting the fire out, because they wanted a stampede. They saw the crowd that was inside. They wanted a stampede to come through. To kill as many as that was in there, and including the minister, more specifically the minister. But you had to hear, like you could even, when the minister came in, you could hear the roar of the people having the minister there. It was just like this, you had to be there to really appreciate it. When them brothers broke the doors down and they couldn't even hold the FOI, couldn't hold the doors back, and the college said, let it go. And but they came in peacefully. They just wanted to get in. And then once it was over, they walked out just as peacefully. There wasn't a whole lot of commotion or anything. The people just, they heard what the minister had to say and they walked out of the building, and the police were on their horses thinking they were going to be billy clubbing people and all that kind of stuff. And it never happened. And it just goes to show forth our discipline and how we represent ourselves, and to also show that Allah is with us. But we got to believe that up in here, that we don't have nothing to worry about. So if the crowd gets crazy, we're security, we're there for protection, and we don't have anything to worry about. That was an overwhelming event. Very, very, very overwhelming. So
all praise due to Allah. Now, Sister Dawn, during this time period, you got Dr. Khaled, you got death threats, you got fire and all of this. Were you ever afraid?
Absolutely not. Because I'm going to tell you what happened with the sisters who actually were able to stand post on the rostrum with the minister. The minister's daughters took them backstage and told them, if you're not ready to die for our father, then there's no need of being here. If anything happens to our father while you're standing post, you're going to be in trouble. And that's one of the things I used to tell the sisters in the MGT class when we went traveling. Anything happens to the minister because you were slacking your duty, we're coming after you first. If a gun gets through there, then we're definitely coming for you. So there was no playing. Fear, it just never entered my mind. I put my hand on a gun for the first time when I was in Philadelphia doing security. Because they used to bring machetes, guns, and all that in Philly. Philly was a wild place to go to. But we had already had our minds psyched up that this is what we're going for. So we had like one of them little rallies that you have, in the football locker room, to psych ourselves up and get ourselves ready. That's what we would do. So there was no fear. And if I even felt that a sister was afraid and couldn't handle it, I would tell a sister, I don't want you on the post today. It's okay. We're going to use you for something else, but I don't feel like it. And if she would fight Sister Dawn, I could do, no. Trust me, we're going to be okay, but I'm going to put you someplace else. So that's something that as a captain is very important too. You have to know your soldiers, and you have to, the sisters want to help, and they're going to do exactly what you ask them to do, not bossing them around. But if you love them enough and you know your sisters enough, then you'll know who.
All right, waiting on Sis Capt Dawn to come on back in and read some of these comments.
Because you want somebody on post, file is very, very important and helpful. But that's what we told everybody. Some of y'all not going home tonight. Who's ready for that? You got your children situated with whoever their benefactors are, because you may not be leaving here. That was the kind of environment that we had. We knew that, they were coming and we was ready for them. So all praise is due to Allah, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and our beloved minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Excellent. Yes, ma'am. And so, Capt, I just want to read to you some of the comments people showing love. Wow, I haven't learned how to stand up to minister yet, but she's not afraid. Okay, beautiful. And Sister Capt, a lot of these sisters who want to reach out to you, can they reach out to you on Facebook? Where people who are watching this, I see NBC putting their emails in here and things like that.
Yeah, you can get my email out, naturallydawn55@gmail.com.
Okay.
I'm more than happy. We can even do like a little fireside chats or something on a Zoom or what have you. And I think it's necessary. I think that we need to talk to each other, talk about experiences, talk about our fears, and get strength from one another. And sometimes you have to go outside of where you are to get it. But we're all sisters all over the nation. And that's what we really would need to realize. We're not tribes. You're not Los Angeles and I'm New York and you're not California, wherever you're at. We're all the same. And we're all building that one nation. So, we need to stop tribalizing everything, my captain's better than yours. No, all the captains are working together and striving hard. Some have a little bit more strengths than the other ones, but, we're all striving to do the same thing. Love the minister.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Okay, great. We have a lot more questions for you, and thank you everybody who's watching, but we have a quick 60-second commercial break. for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this edition and this month. 1 second. Here we come. We're coming right back to our sister Captain Dawn.
A camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out to him if you need any of those services. Sister Miriam's ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Sister Naima's Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country, right here in the studios of Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Kenneth's Bow Tie Maker Extraordinaire. He'll ship you bow ties anywhere across the nation. Dr. Henry Carter's King Henry Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad's COVID-19 Disinfected Cleaning Services, out of Chicago. Student Minister Sharif Muhammad's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, available on adulsharif.com. And lastly, Brother Joshua Muhammad's book, Cleopatra, as well as No Father, No Excuse, both available on Amazon. If you would like to donate or...
Boom, perfect. Thank you for every like, share, and subscription, as well as anonymous Cash App. I said, Captain Dawn, you were teaching so hard. One of my Beatles album fell down while you was talking. So, you know what I'm saying? I had to go put that back together. Yes, ma'am. You're doing a great job. Yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask you, are you a grandmother? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. How's being a grandmother impacted you?
Very much so. And all you young sisters who have children, enjoy your children now, because they are your blessing, and your grandchildren would be a different type of blessing for you. They open up a different kind of love for you. You know, everybody says the grandparents treat their grandchildren better than they treated their children. That's because the grandchildren treat the grandparents better than the children treat the parents. But no, realistically though, it's another whole journey. You know, it's a love on another whole level. It's something I didn't understand. I used to question my mother all the time. Why are you doing that for this one and that one? You know, and then now I realize why she did it. Because that love cycle love is just really is something else, but that love cycle turns into a different journey. You know, even when you like lose a parent, like I lost both my parents, that love cycle changed. I learned how to love my mom and appreciate her more in her death than I ever could have done while she was living. And as crazy as that may sound, I tell people that all the time, you know, you will learn to love your mother, love your father in a different way. And oftentimes in a better way than you ever could have done while she or he was here with you. So grandparents, you know, it's a different lifestyle. You know, get your pockets ready because you're going to be broke the rest of your life. But you know, but it's a blessing. And when them babies grab you around the neck and hug you and give you all them kisses, you just, you know, you want to make a pathway for them to look back on something when you're gone to say, my grandmother this, my grandmother that. You know, it's a love journey. It's different.
Oh, praise be to Allah. Beautiful. And people were showing you love, saying, yes, ma'am. My sister Naima says, Assalamu alaikum, family, alaikum salam. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Naima. I know she wants me to make sure I let her know that constantly. Happy birthday, Naima. We're so happy that you're here. But speaking of your parents, okay, you got deep. So we got to go get deep with you real quick. So could you elaborate on the love cycle and how you were able to love your mother more after?
It was a different appreciation. You know, while your parents are here, and that's not to say I didn't love her, because God knows I adored my mom while she was here. But when she was gone, and then that emptiness that you feel once they're not there, it can take you into a depressed state, you know, which is something that you won't experience until you lost a mom. Now, you know, losing your mother, where it took you mentally.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, what happened to you. But then once I realized after she was gone that she was never coming back again. And that's why I thank Allah much for the teachings on Elijah Muhammad, to recognize I'm not going to see her on some golden chariot, or when the gates open again and Peter meets us at the gate. This is it. What I had with her is it. And so to be able to go back on things that she used to tell me, and at the right times, like things will happen to me, and then I can hear her voice say, "This is what I meant by such and such," or and I can love her for that and say, "Thank you, Mom. I appreciate what you said. I didn't listen to it when you gave it to me, but now I understand why you said that." So the appreciate, and you look up the word appreciation, and then you can understand why you can appreciate a person. Like they say, you never miss your water till your well runs dry. You never miss your baby till she says bye bye. You
Mm.
know, that's what it is. You can't appreciate them. You almost take advantage of them in a positive way while they're here. But when they're not here and you can't do that, then the love is different. And it's,
Beautiful.
and you should, and I'd say this too, um, for young children, and I also have a different appreciation for children who lose their parents at a young age, because I lost my mom at 55. And I say if a child is 6, 7 and up and even younger and they lose a parent, people need to talk to them because it takes them to a different level in life now, without having that parent there. So if I felt that way losing my mother as an adult, then what does a child feel like losing a parent as a child? So they have to be continuously nurtured, knowing about their parent. It's a different thing, and then it can make a big difference. It does make a big difference in their life. You have to talk about that parent. People don't want to talk about people that died, but you have to cleanse yourself, and you have to be able to release the hurt that you may have, so that you can have a different appreciation, there's that word again, for them while they're not here, as you did when they were here.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Excellent. And I wanted to ask you, speaking about love, right? There is a thing that is trending constantly, especially within our community, whether it's the nation, Muslim, revolutionary, conscious, woke, whatever, Black people specifically dealing with gender wars, like male versus female, like the war. What advice would you give about us, like learning how to love the opposite sex, like just brother and sister, like to stop like us man versus woman? Like what advice would you give to us just about loving each other more in that sense?
Well, I think, if we're going to deal with it on the teaching level, if the sisters, just deal with yourself as a woman, just deal with yourself as a female, as the second self of God. Wrap that around your head. You're the second self of God. You know, um, you just need to get into who you are and learn how to love you, your role, your position. Brothers need to learn their role, their position, and who they are. And then you would realize that you have the opposite that caused you to attract. And so
Mhm.
if you can deal with that, then you won't be fighting over, well, you're doing this, I'm doing that, or we're equals. And the Quran already tells us, what our positioning is. There's nobody that's better than the next one. You're equal on that. Sisters, give the brother the opportunity to be the man, to be the brother, be the strength, be the breadwinner, all that kind of thing. And brothers, give your wife the opportunity to be the wife and the mother and the homemaker. Don't try to always dictate to each other, well, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be doing that. No, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. And if we talk to each other in a different way than what we talk to each other as, communication would be a better thing for us. I find that we battle a lot over the stuff that we don't need to be battling about. Know your place, stay in your lane. Don't be dogmatic about it. I think the brothers sometimes, and I have to say this for the sisters, um, I think sometimes you're very, very brutal and negative, um, in sometimes making your household. I
Mhm.
think, you want to be that strong starch FOI, but you don't, like the minister said, you don't have to be that military man in your house. you know, Sisters stand up straight, you're not in the MGT class. So allow
Mhm.
your wife to go to her MGT class and be what sisters are making her as an MGT. And sisters, allow your husband to go to FOI class, but in going to your FOI class, learn how to be a husband and not just a paper seller, on the corner. Learn how to be gentle to your wife, knowing that she's taking care of the home. Sometimes we forget about that. You come in, you want your dinner on the table, but make yourself worthy of having the dinner put on the table. Bring some flowers home every once in a while. Let your wife, send her a card. I appreciate you. Make her, don't make her the breadwinner while you're sitting home doing nothing. Those type of things. Really sit down with each other and talk about what you want in the relationship, what you want as from a husband, what you want from a wife. That's part of the courtship process anyway. But you really don't know what you're getting sometimes until you sit there and you close that door after you say I do, and it's like, what the hell did I do? So because you didn't ask the right questions and do the right stuff. But it's a learning process, and you got to be willing to deal with that, and to work it out. But I think sometimes we need to be a little more gentle with each other. I heard the minister sometimes, sweetheart, talking to Mother Khadijah, your wife is not your sister, so stop referring to her as sister, because the sister is the sister in the mosque. The brother is the brother in the mosque. You don't walk around the house, brother so and so. No, sweetheart. Lovey-dove, that type of things. Give yourself something to grow on, as opposed to, not what you, project that you think it's supposed to be, but make it what you want it to be.
Teaching, yes, ma'am, Sister Capt. Praise be to Allah. And people are putting fire emojis. My sister's name is all praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Sister Josette said, this morning message from Chicago, self first will guide you towards others. Praise be to Allah. Wow, goes both ways. Excellent. Beautiful. And thank you, everybody who's watching. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. All right. I wanted to ask you, being that you said, you told me that you came into the nation late 1978, early 1979, and it's 2023. Do you feel that women in Islam, specifically the Nation of Islam, are oppressed?
I think, okay, let me put it to this way. The world has oppressed women. I think women in the Nation of Islam, sometimes when we pull the world into our nation, then we allow for oppression. So like the minister teaches us, you have to take on the full armor. You have to take on the teachings of what Allah is making you as a woman. Some of us really and truly are mixing the world into us as Muslim women. And so we have to define ourselves as we are taught in class that Master Fard Muhammad came to make us, not what the world came to make us. Sometimes I talk about the makeup and sisters say, oh, Sister Dawn, it's a new world. No, it's not a new world. It's Allah's world still. The world that you're talking about is what's trying to infiltrate us as MGT, And so makeup, like the minister said, is not an issue until we make it an issue and we make that the foundation. The whole idea behind how to eat to live, you eat right, that inner beauty comes out because you're eating right and stuff. You don't need to make up for what you don't have by putting on a whole lot of makeup. Let your beauty just shine. A little bit of lipstick here and there, but that bright red lipstick, the eyelashes down 20 feet in front of you, and all that kind of stuff. That's the world. Let's be very, very clear. That is the world. When you look in the mirror, ask yourself, will Master Fard Muhammad be pleased with the way I look? Am I representing his nation? If I sit out amongst 10 women, will I stand out as Allah's woman under the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or will there be some confusion? So to answer, I think I went around the world, but I think that the oppression is with us if we allow for it. If we accept it, then it's oppression. But when we realize what Allah came to make us, then there is no oppression, because Allah didn't come to oppress us. He came to make us an example of what women are and what they're supposed to be. So don't mix it up. Don't mix up the teachings. Don't mix up the world with our dress, with the way we act, with the way we talk, with the way we look. Let's put on what Allah told us to put on mentally, morally, physically, spiritually, and there won't be no oppression. How can there possibly be if you're taking on the full armor of God?
Go ahead and teach. Yes, ma'am. Excellent response, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. And people are showing you love all across the country. Yep. Okay, beautiful. I wanted to ask you about, speaking of mothers and grandmothering, there was something that you wanted to talk to us about diapers today.
Oh, there's a sister in the nation. Her name is Nadia. Her grandfather is the brother that we affectionately call the General, Brother Abdul Karim Muhammad. And she launched a diaper company called Tinky Poo. And this is it. It's got our children, children of color on the package, so that when you buy it, you see it's us. The diapers have all these little Afro. This is just one of the colors. It has all this Afrocentric stuff. It has a full line of packaging. The diapers, a lot of you don't know that some of the diapers that you use have chemicals in them. They're not made out of 100% cotton. These are no kind of chemicals in them whatsoever. So I just wanted to, I told her I would give her a little plug. And here's the key thing to that. Even if you just bought one pack of her diapers, if all of us bought one pack of diapers, we could make her a millionaire in a day's time. And that's how we got to think. We buy her, even if you may not like them after a while, but if you bought one pack, you could make her a millionaire like the Kardashian girl did when the world went out and bought all her makeup, made her a billionaire overnight. Let's make each other billionaires overnight. So I just wanted to say, if you go to tinkypoo.com, www.tinkypoo.com, and just order some diapers from the sister. She has wipes too. The wipes don't have any chemicals in them either. And it'd be cute if your little one is walking around with diapers that have little afro puffs on their heads and all that kind of thing. So it's for anybody, but for brown, us brown and beautiful Black folks. So
that's incredible. And I've had many entrepreneurs and businesses on my podcast, the People's Podcast, and I've never come across our own diapers and our own wipes. That's very incredible. Right. And we look forward to interviewing her as well. All right, ma'am. People are putting clapping emojis and saying yes, absolutely, wonderful. All right, I have two more questions for you. I want to ask you. We spoke last time about your music taste. What movies do you watch sometimes to laugh or to unwind after a hard day work? Do you watch any movies or TV shows, something to unwind?
I'm gonna tell you what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to The Equalizer Part 3.
Okay.
I just hope they don't kill my boy off, because I'm thinking that it's the final chapter. He's gonna go down, but he ain't going down, without a fight.
That's right.
I like a lot of different stuff. I like to be versatile. I like comedy.
Okay.
I enjoy a good love story. So it depends on what my mood is, to be perfectly honest. I love Lady Sings the Blues. The movie where I first fell in love with Billy D. Williams.
Okay.
I like Dave Chappelle, so I'll listen to his comedy every once in a while. Try to cloud my mind with too many things, but it depends on my mood, to be perfectly honest. So I like the Golden Girls, some of them old TV shows that you
can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with the Golden Girls.
You definitely can't. Even Fred Sanford and Archie Bunker, for that matter. He was there was the Jeffersons, that kind of thing and stuff. So I like to laugh. I just like to enjoy myself, and and that's the other thing I just want to say to the brothers and sisters: enjoy your life. When I first came in the nation, and this I wouldn't change a thing. I was headstrong into just the nation, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved the traveling up and down the East Coast, Sunday morning Friday night into Sunday morning. Going up and down the East Coast, to protect the minister on buses. We used to go like that. With some things, what I do different, I would have taken the time to take a trip. Like for a week, just to breathe or what have you. But that's how focused we were. It was the nation or nothing. And I say that to say you do have to live your life in the process as well. You do have children. You have to give your children a life and a good lifestyle, a Muslim lifestyle. And that's what some of our children suffer from. Oh, we're in the nation. We don't do nothing. We don't do this. We don't do that. Our friends do this. How come we can't? Because you don't. That's why we can't. So you teach your children to love the teachings and the nation that they're in, to love Master Fard Muhammad, love the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan, and you teach them that they have a life to live as well. You don't want to drop dead or die and you haven't lived. The minister lives. He's doing his job as he's supposed to, and he doesn't stop. However, he does take a chance to do some living in the process of it. you know, and I
Absolutely.
think a lot much that he has that the opportunity because he deserves that and so much more. I, for one, can't um, can't wait for him to meet the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're going to suffer um, if we allow ourselves to, but I just so want him to meet his father. I so want him to reap the benefits of all his love and his sacrifice that his whole entire family has put up with and stuff. So when we pray for that, let's pray for his safety and for his return, but pray for ourselves as well because it's going to be a lot. But stay steadfast in your belief. That would be the main thing that I would say. Stay steadfast. You're going to lose your mind, but you only lose your mind if you allow yourself to. So
Beautiful. All praises to Allah. Well, excellent. And on that powerful and positive note, I want to thank you, Sister Capt. Dawn Muhammad. Thank you once again, your family, for coming on. Thank everyone who is watching and continues to watch People's Podcast. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off with the People's Podcast. And I'm going to let everyone know once I go to New Jersey and try Sister Captain's Bean Pie, I will come back and let you all know how good it was because that's all everybody talks about.
yeah,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
praises due to Allah. Thank you, Brother Joshua. I appreciate it. And thank you, brothers and sisters, for taking the time to listen to anything that I may have said that was helpful to you. May Allah bless us all as we do what we can do in his holy and righteous name of goodness. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, ma'am. All right, boom.